The UFC returned to Toronto on Saturday with the UFC 231 at Scotiabank Arena, and two fighters leave the event with championship belts. Of course, in the headliner, Max Holloway puts on an absolutely brilliant performance against Brian Ortega, earns the 4th round TKO stoppage after the doctor halts the fights in between rounds. Ortega was an absolute mess after absorbing a UFC single fight record 290 significant strikes from Holloway. Just a masterclass performance by him, one of his best of his career, and just goes in there after the long layoff, after all the questions about things that happened earlier this year with his withdrawals with the first scheduled Ortega fight in July, goes out there and just erases a lot of those talks, a lot of those memories, and shows he is absolutely still on top of his game and only getting better. A absolutely sick performance by Holloway in this fight, and now you just have to wonder what is going to happen in his future. He is quickly establishing himself as not just one of the best fighters in the UFC right now, not just the best featherweight of all time, but one of the greatest fighters of all time, period. Holloway on a 13 fight winning streak now, and you have to wonder who is going to be able to test him. It seems like the 145 division may not be long for him. UFC president Dana White really pushing the narrative that Holloway should go up to 155 post-fight, and Holloway doesn't seem overly opposed to it either. I think there's some issues they have to figure out in terms of his belt and what it would mean for his contract and everything moving up, but if he's willing to make it happen and the UFC wants it to happen, there is so many good matchups you could make for Holloway in the 155 pound division. Just an endless stream of top names in that class. Of course, there's a possibility of a rematch with Conor McGregor. There's the likes of Dustin Poirier, Nate Diaz, the champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, who was supposed to fight Holloway in April. That fight didn't come to fruition, but the one that I want to see is a name that mentioned Holloway post-fight, and that is Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson saying that if Khabib Nurmagomedov is unable to fight him in a timely manner, he will absolutely fight Holloway, and I think that is a matchup it's hard to resist at this point. That is a absolutely thrilling fight. Tony Ferguson, an 11 fight winning streak of his own, has been excellent of late, coming off a win over Anthony Pettis, and I think that is a matchup that UFC has to strongly consider, especially if Khabib and Conor McGregor are out for a while dealing with this issue stemming from the UFC 229 brawl with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I think that's a matchup that could very possibly come to fruition. His victory followed another brilliant championship fight performance, this one coming from Valentina Shevchenko, who was awesome in her victory over Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She was just a step ahead. She was too strong, too technical, and just was able to pretty much have her way over the course of 5 rounds and winning a unanimous decision and claiming that vacant UFC women's flyweight championship belt that she was supposed to fight for earlier this year. It didn't materialize with Nico Montano, but she got a much bigger platform, a much more highly known opponent, highly regarded opponent, but she went out there and put it on Jędrzejczyk and fought her fight, and now she is the champion of this weight class. And I think we may have seen her contender fight earlier in the night. Jessica Ai beats Caitlin Chookagian by decision, split decision, a close victory for her, but she got the job done. She's now 3-0 since moving down to women's flyweight herself. That's a fight you could definitely do. I believe Valentina Shevchenko would be a heavy favorite, but it's still a matchup that makes sense at this point. So definitely interesting matchups on the horizon.